Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Thanks so much for joining us here on our program that brings you new paradigms for a new world. We are also giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We're here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., 9 a.m. on Wednesdays for our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. Podcasts are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations on the internet. All you have to do is put in Tell Me Your Story, Richard Dugan, and it'll show you where we can be found. We're also on YouTube, where you can listen to and watch these interviews, and we will also be linked to our guests' website so that you can find out more about what they are all about. We also ask that you participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, the 2020s, where we ask you to spend some time going within, listening to that still small voice. And if what we are doing resonates with you, you like the programs, the guests, the conversation, the topics that we bring, and you'd like to become a part of this financially, we would greatly appreciate any support that you can send us. That's why I have a PayPal account, and it's for your security as well as ours. So we hope that you will do what you can, and we thank you for those who have helped, and thank you for those who will help in the future. With all of that said, we jump into a subject that I haven't delved into in over 14 years of doing this particular program, but it seems as though more and more it is becoming one of the conversation pieces for a lot of folks. I can say that since the passing of my dear elder sister Jeanette on the 29th of March 2022, that I've been hearing her voice somewhere in my being. Some would say I've been hearing her in my head. I don't know. All I know is I hear her, and it's wonderful to hear her laughter. Maybe it's just the memories of her laughter. I don't care. It's nice to hear. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk with a gentleman who has dealt in these areas of the paranormal. That's right. The paranormal is what we're going to be talking about today with our very special guest all the way from Hawaii. We're talking with Andrew Aloha. He is going to talk about his paranormal experiences. And I'll also give you right off the top here, folks, the website is spiritualimageproductions.blogspot.com. All kinds of information there on some of the other work that he does. And Andrew, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
Now, you have listed here, are you the head pastor, minister, what have you, of the Church of Mabus, if that's pronounced correctly?
It's funny that you would ask that, but because that's one of the things, topics that I did not mention in my book. Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences. Here, I'll show you I don't know, can you see that okay?
I see it just fine, yes.
Anyhow, I know that there are a group of people that interview people that delve into the paranormal and spiritual and all kinds of stuff. But in my book, Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences, I talk about all kinds of subject matters, including, and I'll tell you here in a second, as soon as I can, the meditation, overshadowing and channeling, ghosts, UFOs, aliens. I mean, there's so much stuff in here. That going on tour with Amachi, the Hugging Saint. I don't know if you know who that is, but she's considered a saint out of India. She used to go on tour every year until the pandemic hit, and then now things have changed. All kinds of miscellaneous stuff, crystal kids and all kinds of. But in the book, I forgot to mention. I used to be the photographer for the Wesak Festival in Mount Shasta, California. A man by the name of Joshua David Stone was the producer of it for 10 years in a row. and then he died like the year afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, he asked me. Well, I went there. The first time I went was back in 1997, right after I came back from India, from visiting Sai Baba, who's another saint. He's probably the most evolved saint you'll ever come across. He's considered conscious at the universal level versus planetary level or solar system level or galactic level or whatever. That's how you can distinguish between a lot of the different saints. Not that it's bad or good, but that's how you can tell who's more evolved and who in terms of the saint hierarchy, if you want to call it that. But he's probably the most evolved being you could ever come across. He had his first incarnation back in the 1800s as Shirdi Baba, and then he came here as Sai Baba, Satya Sai meaning truth, and then he died back, I believe, in 2011. He died, and then he came back as Prema Baba, which is one of my missions. One of my goals is to help him ground here and help him with his mission here on Earth. And I believe he's 10 or 11 years old. I believe next year he'll turn 12 years old, and I think that's when he'll come into his power as an avatar, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. So and he's, from what I understand, he's already producing, he's already doing miracles even now, before he's even taken that step. But anyhow, years ago when Joshua David Stone, he wrote a whole encyclopedia set to spirituality, and I read at least 2 or 3 or 4 of his books, and went out while I was in India. And when I came back, I said, well, I'm going to go and check out this Wesak Festival. And I did it back in 1997. I photographed the whole thing. I don't know, over 100 pictures I took. I sent them to him, and he came back the next year and he said, well, the masters want to know if you want to be the official photographer for the event. I said, okay, fine. But that just meant I got a free ticket to the Wesak Festival, which wasn't much, but it helped. But anyhow, I did that for several years in a row. And in that process, Joshua David Stone initiated a whole gym full of people, and made them all golden, which is called golden robes, under the guise of Melchizedek, the Melchizedek order. And so in that frame, I'm considered a priest, a reverend, whatever you want to call it. And so along with all these people, and I believe that Jesus also became a golden robe when he was here years and years ago as well. So if that answers your question.
It does. And I also want to talk a little bit more about, and we will in just a moment, about the definition of paranormal as we continue talking with Andrew Aloha, all the way from Hawaii. Which island are you on, by the way?
Excuse me?
Which island are you on?
I wanted to say, I'm okay. And again, if you go to my book, it's available on Amazon.
Right.
And one of the things I need to mention about this book is a friend of mine painted the cover, and I activated it. So the cover in and of itself emanates healing energies to whoever's around the book. And if you open the book, there's a bunch of pictures in it. And that's why it's so expensive, not because of my preference, but because Amazon, they tell you have to charge a certain price. So I had to start, but there's several pictures in the book that are activated. And again, if you're anybody that's around the book, will get healing energies from the book itself. Anyhow, now what was the question that we were talking about? Just a sec.
I was just curious as to where you are located.
I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I don't live in Hawaii, but I did live in Hawaii years ago. And this whole story is in my book as well. I went to visit a friend in California, and she goes, "Well, I just got this message. You got to go visit Hawaii." I thought, well, she's full of it, whatever. So anyhow, after about 2 weeks or so, I started getting all this stuff about Hawaii. A woman driving a car with a license plate from Hawaii. All this stuff about Hawaii started coming to me. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go. So I did. I went and lived in Maui, and I got to do all the trips, all the tour stuff that you can do there, snorkeling trips, bicycling trips, helicopter rides, dinner cruises. I mean, everything you can do. The luau's. I got to do. I gained about 50, 60 pounds or 80 pounds. I don't know how much, but anyhow. So right before I left, now check this out. Right before I left and came back to the main island, back to I was living in this community style of home, and it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was sleeping. Literally, I was sound asleep, and I hear this really, really loud in my mind. It woke me up. Right? What was that? I said, okay, well, whatever. So I go, I'm going to go down to the pier. And as I was an activity agent, which is why I got to do all this stuff. And I could, at any given time, I could go do whatever ride or activity I wanted to. I just had to book it, and I'm there. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna go down to the pier and see about checking out what that was all about, what that sound was all about. So I started walking. It was about a half a mile to the pier, a mile or so, not very far. And so I was walking down the sidewalk. All of a sudden, there was a big energy on my left shoulder, really huge and expansive. I stopped and looked back and I said, "Who are you?" He says, "Kapanali." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "How tall are you?" He says, 7'1". I said, "Oh, really?" Now, my friend from California, when I went to visit her, she goes, "Oh, you got to go to Hawaii and reclaim your heritage to the Ali'i." Now, do you know who the Ali'i are from Hawaii?
No.
The Ali'i are the royalty that used to run the islands years and years ago, and before the English and everybody else took over. Well, anyhow, I was one of those guys, and I was 7'1". Come to find out, my name was Kapanali in that lifetime. So anyhow, I came back. I went down to the pier, and I did a submarine ride that morning, and as we were doing the tour, the guide goes, "Yeah, 2 baby whales were swimming, were passed through in the morning on their way to the Big Island." So one of those baby whales was one of the ones that woke me up that morning. But anyhow, wow. Yeah. So I came back, and I moved. I lived in Sedona. I was telling the story. We were visiting another saint. I don't remember if it was Mother Mira. I think it was Mother Mira or Karunamai. I can't remember, Sri Karunamai. But anyhow, I was telling the story to some people there at this gathering, and this woman comes up. She goes, "Yeah, but 7'1" was actually kind of short for those people." I said, "What? I had to be short in that lifetime too, whatever." So anyhow, it was like that. So she confirmed basically that these people could be that tall, and for me to have existed in that lifetime was very real for me. So, and it still is. So anyhow, Andrew Aloha. When I came back, Andrew Aloha was born from that, because of all that.
We're going to continue our conversation here with Andrew Aloha here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you so much for joining us here on the program as we start talking a little bit more about the paranormal and Andrew Aloha's paranormal experiences. Now, you gave us a little bit of a laundry list earlier of the some of the elements therein, but how do you define the paranormal as you describe it in your book? What is the definition that you use?
I'm going to tell you that right now as we speak. Now, now some people find my book boring at the beginning of the book boring, and that's because so I laid down the foundation for paranormal, the history of paranormal, and the paranormal is an unexplained phenomena not subject to the laws of nature, extrasensory perception, a supernatural phenomena, or science that can be explained. So paranormal is not in accordance with scientific law, not in accordance with or determined by nature, and contrary to nature. Astral projection, astrology, aura, bilocation, breatharianism, clairvoyancy, close encounters, cold spots, crystal gazing, conjuring, cryptozoology, demonic possession, demonology, ectoplasm, electronic voice phenomena, exorcism, extrasensory perception, fortania, fortune telling, ghost hunting, indigo children, magic, mediumship, miracles, the occult, orbs, Ouija boards, paranormal fiction, paranormal television, precognition, prenatural psychics, psychic readings, psychokinesis, psychometry, reincarnation, remote viewing, retrocognition, spirit photography, spirit possession, spirit world, spiritualism, stone tape, supernatural, telepathy, table turning, ufology, and more consist of the paranormal. And it's interesting. A lot of that stuff is in this book. I cover a lot of stuff, but you know what's interesting? Spiritualism is paranormal. So does that mean religion is paranormal?
Well, I guess it all depends upon your definition. If one were to use the accurate definition of the word religion, specifically from the Bible, the New Testament, Jesus said true religion is taking care of the widows and the orphans, those people who are down on their luck, if you will. That is true religion, not the business of a building and a congregation and prayers and homilies and all of those things. That is not, based upon the definition from the New Testament, all of that other stuff. I don't know what that is, but it's not true religion.
I'm going to let you know what religion is really all about.
All right.
That you want to hear it, but I'm going to tell it to you anyhow. But now religion is related to what you call six-ray energy, which is the color blue, the age that we just came from, the age of Pisces, and devotion. Now, the opposite of devotion, which is the downside of six-ray energy, is obsession. So religion is basically all about devotion to something or another. It could be to a person, to a thing. It could be to a workout, whatever. But it's like a meditation, and maybe it is a meditation. But religion is nothing more than devotion to someone or something. That's what I consider religion.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the paranormal. When was your first paranormal experience, and what was it?
And again, it's covered in my book.
I understand that, but do we have you on the program to talk about this a little bit?
You know, I think this book would make a good documentary or a good TV series. But it starts out. My book opens up with it's like a movie. It like fade in, and then I'm there. Now, what happened was when I was a kid, somehow I fell off a car, and I had amnesia or something, because I don't remember anything from age 0 to age 5, and it was like a fade in, and there's a picture. I was at this daycare center type of thing, and all of a sudden I'm standing there with some kind of sword. This guy is teaching us how to sword fight or something, and that's my first experience with the paranormal. I literally don't remember. I may remember one glimpse of living in a house, a white house in Texas, maybe, but everything else is zilch. And then all of a sudden fade in, and this guy's teaching us how to sword fight. So that's my actual first paranormal experience. And then I didn't come into any other major experiences So now what happened was my brother, when I was 10 years old, died in a fire. This is like the day after Christmas. There was a big fire. Him and I were sleeping in the same room. And I ran out into the living room. There's this huge fire everywhere. And I yelled out, fire, fire, fire. And then I didn't go back to get my brother, which to me was a real big guilt trip for years and years. But that was where he was at. That was a lot of times when people, especially kids, they live only for a few years, a few months, a few weeks, or whatever. They're usually masters. They've already evolved. They're already pretty evolved, and they only need to experience the physical world for whatever time period, short time period, and that's it. And then they move on and they go start doing their mastery with whatever they got to do wherever. So it was kind of like that, and that took me years to figure that out for myself. But anyhow, when that happened, I literally cursed God and I said, God, I will never ever believe in you until I see you, period. And I told him off, and then that was the end of it. Well, years later, I was in the Air Force, and I was living in Victorville, California. I was getting ready to get out of the Air Force, and we were sitting, me and these two other women, bankers of all things. When do you ever party with bankers, right? So anyhow, we were sitting there in the back of my hatchback, and we were talking next to this riverbed in Victorville, and we were just sitting there laughing, talking. We were drinking wine coolers. I think maybe at the most we had drank one wine cooler, if even that. I know I wasn't drunk, but all of a sudden this tall Spaniard-looking guy walked up to us. He was really tall. He had a golden hair, brilliant blue eyes, and I don't think he had a shirt on that I can remember. And this all took place within 10 or 15 seconds. Me and these women are sitting there laughing, talking, and then I looked up, and he comes up to us. He says, the Christ will appear within 10 years. And I don't even remember him walking up to us, because we were sitting there talking, and all of a sudden he just appeared. And I looked down and looked back up. And I said, I'm going, laughing, and looked back up, and he was gone. And I stopped laughing, and I looked around, and there was nowhere where he can just run and hide. Nowhere. That fast, right? So I never did talk to those women about that whole situation ever, and still haven't. I don't know that I'll ever get to. But anyhow, 5 years later, I'm in Texas. I'm meditating with a group in I believe it was Grand Prairie, somewhere in Texas, near Dallas, the Dallas area. I'm meditating with a group, and one of the group members, and this is literally 5 years later, this guy, one of the group members, comes in. He said, "You're not going to believe what happened. What happened?" He goes, "Well, a friend of a friend, this couple picked up a hitchhiker in Dallas, Texas. They were driving, and they're like a Christian couple. They don't ever pick up hitchhikers, but they picked this guy up for some reason. He's dressed in white, a white robe type of thing, and he gets in, and they're driving down the freeway, the interstate, I think. And he goes, the Christ will appear within 5 years, and disappears right there on the spot, like literally disappears. And they almost crashed. They kind of crashed, and this is in police records in Dallas, Texas. Nobody got hurt or anything. And then once he told me that story, all of a sudden, all of that whole information about what happened that night in Victorville came back to me. It just like memory recall just hit me. I thought, wow, now I remember what happened. So anyhow, and it was because the logic of him disappearing, and that's what I figured out, is that he disappeared. This being, this saint, by the name of Maitreya Buddha. Have you ever heard of Maitreya Buddha?
No, have not.
Maitreya Buddha is the Buddha that they're expecting to come back, but they're not expecting him for another 5,000 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he's already back, and I've later come to find out later on that this was Maitreya Buddha, and he had been doing this throughout the world, everywhere, appearing to small groups. Afterwards, he had appeared to me and maybe a few other people, but then I think in 1992, maybe 91, at the end of 91, he started making appearances to small groups all over the world, in Phoenix, here in Flagstaff, Maryland, Richmond, Virginia, St. Petersburg, New Delhi, India, Frankfurt, Germany, Japan, China, all over the world. He made over 200 appearances, I think 273 appearances or something like that, all over the world. And he would come appear and talk to these groups, give them a message, and then literally he would disappear right in front of them, right there on the spot. A few people may be healed depending on the situation, but he would talk to them about 10, 15 minutes and disappear.
Amazing.
So, yeah. So anyhow, that whole recall came to me, and then I finally figured out who it was and what was going on, and that he just, but the logic of him disappearing just didn't register in my mind. So my mind just pushed it away, and I forgot it for 5 years. That's basically what happened. But go ahead.
Andrew Aloha is my guest. We're here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and we're talking about the paranormal and Andrew Aloha's paranormal experiences here on the program as we continue to tell you how you can find out more. Go to spiritualimageproductions.blogspot.com. That's spiritualimageproductions.blogspot.com, and we will be linked to that website as well so that folks can click on that while they're listening to the interview as we talk more about the work that you do, Andrew. Listed here as you're a psychic, an astrologer, Reiki master, healer, ascended master, teacher, and I'm curious as to some of the things that you have not just experienced, but maybe that you've even sought after as experiences, maybe even under the context of the contract that you entered this world to fulfill those certain experiences. How do you, when someone comes to you who is in need of a physical, mental, emotional, even a spiritual healing, what's one of the first things that you do? How do you go about the process of putting it in the medical vernacular, diagnosing, if you will? You aren't a medical doctor, and I don't want to mislabel here, but there's a point at which you've got to figure out what's going on with this person. Is it something that just it just comes to you as you're there with this person? Either in person or, in this case, let's say over Zoom or Skype or remotely, that kind of thing?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, first of all, before I forget, I'm going to make my latest book, it just came out a few weeks ago, available to your audience for free on Kindle for the next few days till Saturday. I'm thinking Saturday, maybe Sunday, 12 o'clock. People can go online and then just grab this for free on Kindle. But that's a very good question. Now, just to let you know, even though I'm not a licensed practitioner, I'm not a licensed doctor.
Correct.
I'm almost 100%. I was a doctor in at least one other lifetime, and probably an engineer in at least one other lifetime. But that's besides the point. Now, I have another book that I've come out with called The 90-Day Ascension Journey, which is available on Kindle for 99 cents. And I'm making it easily, comfortably available for people. So, because there's so much information in there that could help people help themselves. That's the bottom line for me. If people aren't willing to help themselves, I don't bother. There's no need to bother, because I'm wasting my time. They're wasting my time. And I don't appreciate that. People will take it for granted, take me for granted, and to me, that makes me look like a fool, like an idiot. I don't appreciate that. But if people are serious about helping themselves, then that's when I do a step in to work with them if they want that. And usually I wait. A lot of times I'll wait for them to ask me, because there's no sense. It's like that phrase, when the student's ready, the master will come.
Yeah.
Well, if the student isn't ready, there's no sense in me bothering, because again, I'm wasting my time. Now, if they go, what I usually do, a lot of times I'll just recommend my book, The Citizen Journey, because that has a whole plethora of information that's purposefully designed for this question that you just asked. It gives the foundation of just establishing good, healthy relations. No blaming, no complaining, no lies, no threats, no name calling. That's the very basic foundation when you get involved in a new relationship, right?
Give us the title of that book again.
The 90-Day Ascension Journey.
Oh, okay. I thought there was another one you had mentioned.
No, Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences gives you
Right.
a lot. Now, the thing about that book is that it gives you a whole bunch of paranormal experiences that I've come across over the years. And as you get to the end of it, what the interesting thing about it is that I give you concrete evidence that these things occur, number one. And number two, I give you information, I give you concrete evidence that you can make, literally, purposefully, consciously make your own paranormal experiences happen, literally. So I show you towards the end that you can literally, like with Britney Spears, and I'm not saying that I'm the reason that she had the conservatorship dropped from her case, but last year I got involved. She had been involved in this conservatorship for 13 years, and all of a sudden, last year, I got wind of it, and I started working with helping her, and I still do. But I did some what I call programming. Years ago, I learned how to do some what you call programming to help people, and I did a program for her so the conservatorship would be dropped, literally. So between that and all these other people that were consciously working towards having the same goal happen, the conservatorship was dropped in November of last year. So, and that was a huge step, huge, what do you call it? Indicator that humanity as a whole can come together and have things happen, have miracles happen, purposely and consciously if they want to, right? So it's like that. But the 90-Day Ascension Journey, it's a different format. Again, it gives you the foundation for establishing right, healthy relationships, and that's the mission, goal, and purpose of my company, Spiritual Image Productions. SpiritualImageProductions.com is my website, which will take you to that Blogspot website. But establishing and maintaining right relationships through human values, that's the main goal and mission of my company, to show people, to demonstrate people, to help people figure out what a right, healthy relationship is and how to do it. So once you establish that, then you can continue to maintain that relationship on a deeper level through practices that will actually help you become a saint or a master, if you want to call it that. So service, meditation, prayer, meditation, listening to God, Goddess, prayer, talking to God, Goddess, reading spiritual inspirational works, and then music, mantras, affirmations. Those 5 simple practices are the thing that will get you to enlightenment in this lifetime, if that's what you really want, right? So it's like that.
Yeah.
Then I give the foundation. I give you the foundation to let you know where you're at in the spectrum of this whole program. you know, where you're at. Are you working on your physical body? Are you working on your emotions? Are you working on your mental capabilities? Are you on the in the process of becoming transfigured and transformed and become a master? So you know, I give you those indicators to that way it allows you to let you know what you need to do in your daily activities. Maybe you're working on your emotions and feelings. So maybe you want to do yoga or acting or some kind of something that will help you process emotions and feelings in a good, healthy way, which also happens to be one of the most difficult initiations to go through, having to do with emotional balancing. So, and then, or maybe you want to work on your physical capabilities, on your physical body, and maybe that's where you're at. So you start working out, or you start doing stuff that works with your physical body to keep eating healthy and all that stuff that has to do with demonstrating that you know how to take care of your body. So, you know, it's like that. Go ahead.
Andrew Aloha is my guest. We are talking about his book, Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences, as well as the 90-day Ascension Journey. And you can go to his website, but you can also find those books on Amazon. And we certainly hope that you will check those out. We'll also be linked to his website, which is spiritualimageproductions.com, or actually it's spiritualimageproductions.blogspot.com. And you can find out more about the work that he is doing as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it's a pleasure to have him here all the way from my home state of Arizona and Flagstaff, Arizona. By the way, it's been a while since I've been up there, and I tell you, it can be a beautiful place when it's not on fire. I kind of like California. When it's not on fire, it's a beautiful place. Let's keep it that way, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not do that. But each one of us, Andrew, each one of us has, if I may dovetail off of my statement about fire, each one of us has a fire burning within us, where we know that we should be about a particular, shall we say, task in this life.
A mission, a goal.
A mission, correct, or a purpose, what have you. And we find it very difficult to maybe connect with that, or to initiate what needs to be initiated in order to get on that path. We feel stuck. We don't feel like things are going in the direction that they ought to be. So we just kind of throw up our hands. Okay. Now, I am all for the metaphor here, laying down, floating face up, preferably, in the river, and just going with the flow, as they say. There's a phrase that goes, don't control the process, become a part of the process. I trust the universe to make a way. It did in 2005, 2006. That's why I'm living in Santa Barbara now. I had no plans in 2005 of moving to Santa Barbara, but I knew I needed to get to the ocean. I didn't know where. I didn't care where. I just needed to get to the ocean, and boom. Here we are. Well, I don't know where the next place is going to be for us or for me, but I know that when the opportunities open, as the universe prepares the way, as I continue doing what I'm doing with these interviews, with the projects, and when I'm helping other people to facilitate the work that they are doing through my audio and video production, et cetera, I'm not in a hurry. Now, my sister, who was 65 when she passed, I asked her, we even had the conversation, are you ready? Are you ready to go? Because she kind of knew, she already knew she was terminal. There wasn't really any, I don't want to say there wasn't any hope, and it wasn't a question of resignation. It was more a question of coming to grips with her mortality and whether or not she was ready on the inside. And she answered the question, my question. She said, this is typical, yes and no. What do you mean yes and no? And she said, well, no, I'm not ready because I'm worried about my husband, whose name was Perry, and leaving him and, of course, her daughter, Hannah.
Right.
Well, and of course, but she says, I know they'll be okay. But again, I hate to leave them, but I know that that's going to happen. But then she said, but yes, on a deep spiritual level, yeah, I'm ready. I am ready. And I'm 61. I'm ready too. I'm not saying I've got a terminal illness or anything. Don't get me wrong. I have to. I made a promise back in 1995 when my great grandmother, on my mother's side, she was celebrating her 95th anniversary, 95th birthday, and we were all there and everything. And I said, I'm going to outlive her. And every year that went by, I would say that, and I'd say, and she's making it really hard because she's still alive. Now that wasn't because I wanted her to die. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
She lived to be 100. So my goal is to outlive her. I don't know why. It's just kind of there in my head. So I've got another 39 years plus.
Right.
Now, I've got a lot that I want to do. You've got a lot you want to do. But if today were my day, the expiration of my ticket, my return flight was today,
Right.
I'm good. Okay?
I hear you.
I don't want to because I've got a lot I want to do, but hey, not that and so I'm making peace with it from the standpoint that, and I have no control over that. I have no control over that, because we hear, you and I, we've heard time and time again of people who live one of what can be considered the most healthy lifestyles, and I'm starting to choke up here, healthy of lifestyles, and they die at a young age. And of course, nowadays, people will say, oh, your sister? Oh, she was so young. Well, I guess that's relative, depending upon what you think is old,
Okay, well, first of all, did your sister have gray hair, and did she wear it in a bun all the time?
I don't know about the bun. I know that when I saw her, which was not rarely, which is not often, it was somewhat gray. It was almost salt and pepper gray, if you will, but it was down. It was down.
Oh, right. Because for some reason,
but she may have. I don't know.
Up here, and she has a bun, but
yeah.
No, and death is a really good teacher. One of the biggest fear, maybe the biggest fear of them all, is death for most people on this planet, or maybe every. And the thing is about becoming a master, an ascended citizen, an ascended person, an enlightened person, a saint. That one of the last frontiers, one of the last things that you do is surrender. Surrender everything, your body, your emotions, your family, your friends, your possessions, everything about you surrender to the universe.
Yeah.
Now, people in power on this planet think that they're really powerful. They don't even know power compared to being one with the universe. That's the most powerful thing you could ever be, is being one with the universe. Because now you have access to all these tools, all this stuff, all over throughout the universe, and you can bring people back to life. You can destroy whole planets if you want. I mean, you there's no bigger power than that. So that's what. And you're right. Your sister was afraid for her family, but she was ready to surrender to all of it. Right.
And and I have heard the story since then, since the 29th, and we've all been talking, me and my other three sisters and my brother, and they've shared with me, because they've spent more time around her than I. My four sisters, before my sister's passing, live in the Phoenix metropolitan area where I was born and raised. My brother and I live here in California, and so my sisters were sharing with me, as well as my mother, that in spite of all of the medical things that my sister went through throughout her entire life, starting out as a child with asthma, and of course she in school she played the French horn, a wind instrument, a brass instrument. Who does that? Who has asthma? Who has trouble breathing? And yet it probably helped. But the point is, they told me that she was never bitter. Right up to the end, she was never bitter.
Exactly.
And I take that to heart. That she very well might have been an ascended master, but she may have not been aware of it, maybe on the surface, maybe deep inside she might have, and kept it to herself. It wasn't something, that's one of the things about my...
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are yogis in India. They never come out to the public, and they may meet a grouping of people.
Yeah.
But there are ascended masters, and they would never go around bragging about it. They don't care. But see, and that's the thing about being a master, being a saint. It's like being in the military.
Yeah.
You have to be regiment about your practices. And incidentally, that's one of the things that I just come out with. Another thing that I've just come out with in the last several months is a new program called the Ascended Citizen Journey. It's a course that walks people through the process of learning and establishing some kind of a habit to do practices, spiritual practices, so that they can become ascended master in this lifetime if they want. Or it doesn't matter if they don't, because they can do it next lifetime or the next, but it'll help get them in the right direction and speed up the process to becoming an ascended citizen or ascended master in this lifetime or next or whatever, apart from what they're doing. And whatever they're doing now, they could already be on that journey anyhow. But this most of the time, a lot of people have no idea. They have no clue what to do, and this really gets them. People have been really amazed about the practices that we do, because what I do is I do an introduction to the Ascended Citizen Journey, and I do a Reiki self-healing program. We do some meditations, a blessing bubble, all kinds of stuff before we even get started with the course of itself, the educational part. So we start with practices for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then we go into, it's a 2-hour a week program, and then we go and I walk through people through a lot of the information that they should know, so that they can understand what's going on with their lives. I do an astrology reading at the very beginning, so that it gives them an understanding where they're at, where they have been, and where they will be later on, or where they can be later on if they want to. So it's like that.
We're talking with Andrew Aloha, and we're talking about Andrew Aloha's paranormal experience, the 90-day Ascension Journey, and you're listening to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it's a real pleasure to have Andrew Aloha with us here on the program, talking about a lot of these different areas. I mean, pretty much the laundry list, as I say very respectfully, that he gave us earlier in the program from his book about what is the paranormal. Probably every single one of those is something we've covered on this program over the last 14 plus years, or even beyond that. When before I started this program, I was interviewing people, doing interviews on another. It's not a podcast per se, but it was programs that I used to air on another station in Phoenix. It was called Fast Forward, and we used to talk about these kinds of things all the time. We've had all kinds of incredible folks on this program, and Andrew, I'm glad that you are among them, because one of the things I want to ask you about is, I mean, because you sort of alluded to this, and I don't know why, again, the universe asks the questions, I'm just along for the ride, okay? So, when we talk about these titles, all right, ascended master, yogi, and guru, and whatever the, wise one, and so on and so on and so on. By the way, my dad hates being called a wise guy, but he's given me quite a few wise sayings, if you will, that I repeat, and I credit him for those. When I think about the work that I do in the material world, if we can call digital production digital material, it really doesn't exist. It's magnetic impulses that we just happen to be able to see on a screen. I will let other people make the assessment as to what they want to refer to me as. On a spiritual level, I would take the same position. You want to say that, or you want to say this or the other about me, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to say that. I am. It's like it's almost along the same lines as when I was working for the Christian station back in Phoenix, and there were these ministers, pastors, and people who would come into the station and do their programs. And one day they wanted to lay hands on me to heal my vision. I was born legally blind.
Got it.
I declined,
Right.
and I said I appreciate the sentiment, the intent. But that is not my purpose. My purpose in life is not to have my vision maybe turn to 2020. Yeah,
Right.
that's not why I'm here. Now, the good Lord knows where I am. This is where I was coming from then. The good Lord knows where I am. Hey, he can call collect and I will take the call, okay? And when it's my time, if it's my time in this lifetime, to have my vision maybe brought to 2020 or whatever. He knows where I am, okay? I'm not hiding.
Got it.
And, but again, and of course, I can't stop you from praying for me. But again, I appreciate the sentiment, but no thank you. Now, it was only a few years later that technology caught up with me. I had a lens implant and now I'm driving. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
you could say that my position still stands that, hey, the technologies, I personally believe that the material world is used by the spirit world, if you will, to facilitate these kinds of things. And, the next thing I know, wow, just with the lens implant alone, I go from 2200 to 2080. And then with corrective lenses, I go from there to 2050. And I'm driving. I mean, it's great. And I still try to maintain my sense of awe when I'm out there on the freeway on the 101 here going through Santa Barbara going, wow, this is, I'm 61 and, 25, 30 years ago, I had no plans on this. I was going to bicycle the rest of my life and that was going to be okay. Wow. So when we are on our spiritual journey, and let's just say maybe it's the Ascension Journey, the 90-day Ascension Journey, for example, and because you talk about how we can become ascended masters in this lifetime if we want to. But there's something about, let's say, taking on that path that almost seems just slightly egotistical. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it seems like you've got to come at that from a very humble perspective,
Right.
because it's like it's not something that you go to school. You go to 12 years of school and then you graduate. I now have my diploma to show for it, because sometimes it'll take an entire lifetime and you may not even make it. And yet there are other times when you don't even know that you've done all the work and that you're there, because you're just doing it and you've not put a label on it. Can you talk about that a little bit in terms of our spiritual growth and where we are and where we want to be, as opposed to just saying, I'm just staying on the river and I'm floating?
First of all, Richard, being an ascended citizen, ascended master, a saint, whatever you want to call it, is a way of life. It's a whole lot more than just going to school. Mm-hmm. And it's incidentally, when you go through this program with me, the Ascended Citizen Journey, the course, I actually have a certificate that I give to people afterwards. But it's a way of life that it's like it now. Is being in the military egotistical? Probably on a lot of different levels. But when you talk, and I was in the Air Force for 4 years, when you talk to a lot of the military people, a lot of people from Vietnam, the Korean War, they were out there defending the United States. They were out defending their country. They were out doing with a purpose. They were out doing a service. And ultimately, when you get to a point of ascension, of enlightenment, of lifestyle, you literally choose what you want to do with your life as a service, because your whole life is all a service. And as long as you're being honest and straightforward and transparent about that service, you will it will never ever be egotistical, ever. So that's the thing about any of that stuff. If when people were in the military, they were all doing their service. They were, a lot of them were getting killed because they were doing service. A lot of them were getting killed because they were defending our country. Where's the shame in that? Where's the ego in that? As long as they were being honest with themselves about what they were doing, then that's all that you really need to establish where you are in life with your community, your country, your planet, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you go read the 90-day Ascension Journey, it covers all that. It tells you how you can determine where you are in the spectrum. Now, one of the biggest things, and I can't remember who said it and what the exact phrase was, but as long as you're following your heart, that's all the ascension you need, period. It doesn't get any more real than that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're following your passion, your heart, and being compassionate, that's all the ascension you need to worry or think about. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you're at. Now, and you can go online, maybe on Twitter or on one of my Twitter feeds or my Facebook feed. I wrote a message to Putin from Russia about 2 weeks ago or so. And I explained, I said, hey, you're a leader and maybe you're working with the dark forces, but because the big thing about the dark forces is that they come in and help promote change. If it wasn't for the dark forces, everything would be the same 24/7, 365 for the rest of our lives. Everything would be mundane, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. So, from time to time, people need to change different things because they're going off the path, or maybe they need to start a new journey, new whatever. So I said, and maybe you need to come in and stir up things. That's acceptable. That happens. But your mom and your dad who are deceased are probably turning over in their graves with what you're doing right now. So you're going to want to consider that. And what about your family and your country? You're creating karma for them they're going to have to process through in the next lifetime or the next. Do you really want to do that for them? It's not going to be good karma. I already know it, and most people on this planet know it. So why don't you think about it? And then I put in a program designed to help them get along in the form of right healthy relationship with the Ukrainians and Belarus and whatever else and whoever else. So, and literally the next day, he started making changes towards this war. He started defusing it, and he started establishing a ceasefire. I don't think they've established a ceasefire yet that I know of, but if my astrology is correct, probably at the end of this month, we'll have a definite formal ceasefire established, is my guess.
We're talking with Andrew Aloha, and we're talking about his book, Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences, as well as the 90-day Ascension Journey here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and what you've said is very interesting, Andrew. Andrew Aloha is my guest here on the program. His book, Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences, available via Amazon, and his website, spiritualimageproduction.blogspot.com. And as well as Amazon, where you can get either of these books for your library to really help you along. One of the things that came across to me early on in this process that we've just been talking about in the last part of our program here, having to do with what's going on in I guess you could say the former Soviet Union or the Russian countries, the Slavonic countries, and so forth. This is what came to me, and I'll make it very brief. I had this impulse. If I had the wherewithal, I would have probably followed through on it. I would get a plane ticket. I would fly to Moscow. I would walk into the Kremlin, get the heck out of my way. I don't care who you are. I would walk into whatever big room with the 40-foot table. I would go up to him. I would grab him by the ear and say, no, 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 this is not how we play anymore. This is the 21st century, and you are on permanent timeout. I do not want the man killed. That just generates more karma in the process.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know, by the same token, there is another perspective to all of this that is very unpalatable for most people to even contemplate, that I think you would probably agree with, and that is this. We, as individual human beings, when we come into this world, we're here to play a particular role. We are here to do the things that we are doing. Now, whether that involves enlightenment and ascension or not, it's still, we're here, we have a right to be here, and we're here to play our role. Until we say, I don't want to play this role anymore. This isn't any fun. I don't want to do this. Now, some would say, are you telling me that the Nazis and the Jews, they were just here playing a role? When, on a much higher spiritual and metaphysical level, the answer would probably be yes, right? And the same thing with the Ukrainians and the Russians, with the various minorities in this country. Again, it's very unpalatable. It would certainly be unpopular because now you're taking away a person's right to be upset and angry and want to maybe get revenge or maybe get even or maybe get reparations, et cetera, on infinitum. But isn't it true that on a cosmic and supernatural, spiritual, divine level, you are playing your role, Andrew. I'm playing my role.
Right.
I'm not saying that there's a script, but these are the paths that we have chosen, right? Am I wrong? Help me to better explain it so that it's not, because I'm not interested. I want to be respectful of people and their feelings, their emotions, and what their ancestors have been through or what they've been through. I don't want to demean that in any way, but put a different perspective, as we like to do on this program.
Now, so first of all, because Putin started making these changes the very day after I put this message out, and I fed it through channels where I knew he would get this message, and I almost know 100% that he read my message right the day of, okay, and then started making these changes, but now he's caught in a hot spot because now he's trying to make these changes and they're not letting them because now people don't trust him, which I don't give him. I don't blame him because of his actions. But now he's trying to backtrack is what I'm understanding. But it's very difficult for him to do so because now people don't trust him because it's too late. He crossed the boundary. Now again, you know, we're on a stage. And there's all these characters on the stage, and you play your character, and that's all you got to worry about. You being in your heart space, and that's what's so important about these practices. It teaches you how to establish where the heart space is at, and how to get there, and how to stay there. As long as you're doing that, you don't have to worry about anybody. You don't worry about anybody. As long as you're emanating that love to people, that's all the ascension they need from you to be able to do what they got to do to begin with. And if everybody was to be emanating love, this whole planet would be a whole lot more peaceful than it is now. But again, the dark forces, they do their job very well, and I respect them for that, because if they didn't, then we wouldn't be making all these changes that that we need to make, we've been needing to make or whatever. And now one of the things that's going on is, that song, the dawning of the age of Aquarius, is no longer valid, because we now are completely 100% in the energy of the age of Aquarius now. Now, officially, I believe we won't be there till 2025, but I think energetically wise, we are there. So once all this hoopla ends, within the next few years, possibly, then we're going to be going into peace here on Earth for years and years to come, and people will be a lot more, they'll be a lot more accepting of each other, understanding of each other, and more in their space, more in their power. And that's what's happening. People are confused because they don't know what it's like to be in their power, because the leaders on this planet don't know what it's like to be in their power, because they don't know what it's like to lead from a good, healthy level, in a good, healthy way, be a good, healthy leader. They don't know what that's like. Most of the leaders on this planet, they're caught up in their their crime, or all the crap that they're doing that they're not supposed to be doing, because they're not being professional. And leaders on this planet just don't know how to be professional, and that's the bottom line. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. There you go. Right.
We are talking with Andrew Aloha here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. And, Andrew, this has been a fascinating conversation this past hour. It's amazing how fast they go by. We do encourage people to go to your website, which is spiritualimageproductions.blogspot.com. Get a copy of Andrew's book, folks. The book is Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences, as well as and this is a Kindle ebook for 99 cents. You can get the 90-day Ascension Journey. And you can follow that for 90 days. And I think that all of these things can be very helpful as we move forward and continue the process of transforming our lives. I have 3 final questions that I do want to ask you before we wrap things up. I ask these questions of all of my guests.
Hang on a second before you go to those questions.
All right.
2 things.
Yes.
First of all, again, I'm going to make the Andrew Aloha's Paranormal Experiences free for your people on Kindle for the next for the rest of this week, probably till Sunday. And then now earlier you said somebody knocked on your door and then there was nobody there. Now I'm going to tell you, back years ago when I was going to school at Texas Christian University, I woke up one morning, half asleep, half awake, and I hear this loud thundering, "Andrew, what do you want?" I thought, wow, what was that? So God was knocking on my door, which I didn't understand at the time, but maybe it was God knocking on your door, but you didn't hear him. Oh, wait, your sound is gone.
That is why I, of course, got up and checked it out because I did hear the knock. And I checked both the front and the back door here at the station, and, well, there was nobody there. But I never discount things like that. There's a reason why that happened. And I may not know what it is. And that's one of the other things we'll talk about on another program is giving up the need to know why it happened this way, that way, the other way. The fact of the matter is, it happened, okay? And it happened that way. And you just have to accept that it did without questioning the why. Because knowing why isn't going to change the fact that it happened. And I guess a lot of times that's what happens with a lot of folks is they think, well, if I just know why, it'll make all the difference in the world. No, it won't. It won't change anything. It might change your perception, but it's not going to change the realities of what took place. It's like,
unless they understand the why, then just knowing why will not be enough.
Exactly. My sister, she passed away. I'm going to sit here. Why did she pass away? Why? And of course, I can get the medical report.
Right.
These are the things that happened to her body, and it just stopped working. Okay. She was here for the period of time that she was here, and man, she shared some love with us as her younger brothers and sisters. That I cannot applaud her more. I cannot speak of her more highly. Beautiful, beautiful woman who brought another woman into this world, who also brought two children who are my grand niece and nephew. I'm a great uncle, which is kind of cool. I love spouting that. I had nothing to do with it, but I'll take the title. Thank you very much. But what I do want to do is I want to move into our final phase, which is asking those three final questions that I ask of all of my guests. You may have addressed them to some degree throughout the program, but I like to ask them directly. But before I do, I need to talk to you, the listener and the viewer who are watching and listening to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. You can hear these programs on at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., and that's on a Sunday, Monday at 1 a.m., and Wednesday at 9 a.m. That's our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. And we stream live at those times at richarddugan.com with the podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations, as well as the video cast on YouTube, where you can watch these interviews. And we certainly hope that you will subscribe. We also hope that if you like what we're doing and you'd like to see us continue on, and again, as I've said many, many times before, folks, I'm not putting this on you, okay? It's not, if you don't support what we're doing, we're going to have to shut it down. No. If you can support what we're doing, we would greatly appreciate that. I will keep this thing going just as long as I can, but I'm not putting it. I grew up in Christian broadcasting in the 80s and 90s, and boy, they were threatening all the time. If you don't support our ministry, well, whether you support it or not, if you're listening, you're supporting it, and I thank you for doing that. So if you can, we have a PayPal account for your security as well as ours. Please also participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, where we listen to the still small voice as we go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm place. Just relax, get calm, get quiet, and just be. That, to me, that is the heart of perfection. To be is perfection, okay? That's my definition, okay? And so if you can just be perfect in just being who you are and listening and being quiet, man, even if it's just for a couple of minutes in a day, that's where it starts, and it may grow, and it may grow and grow and grow. But if you haven't ever done it before, I can understand your trepidation. So do what you can to help yourself, and it will also help the people around you. With all of that said, we now move on to the three final questions for our guest here on the program. And the first of those three is, who is Andrew Aloha?
Well, if you go to my website, spiritualimageproductions.com, which converts to spiritual image, the blogspot.com website, there's a bio of me there. I don't think it gets any easier than that. But I am that I am that I am, right?
Also, we want to know, what is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you are doing now?
Good question. My goal, my intentions right now are to process anywhere from 1,000 to 1,000,000 people through the Senior Citizen Journey course, and have them get their certificate. Have over 1,000, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,000,000 people get their Senior Citizen Journey course certificate. That's my goal right now.
And finally, what is your life's purpose?
To be, just like you said. Just to be. Doesn't get any easier than that.
Andrew Aloha, thank you so much for being with us here on the program. Greatly appreciate the time, and we certainly hope to get back to you again. And of course, encourage people to pick up a copy of your book. I'm Richard Dugan, and you have been listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. Yes, yes.
When I start doing events and getting out there into the public, I'm going to make some of these. My friend Sharon Palmer out of Cottonwood drew this, but painted this. But I'm going to make these available in different sizes. They're cliches, which will last over 50 years in the prints that they're in. So
wow.
I'll be making these available later on when I get on the road. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome, and we thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal and Jeanette, I'll be listening.